Today, we're diving into a classic case study that's a true masterclass in consultant-level thinking. It's called the Hair-Raising Challenge, and it's all about taking a huge, messy problem and sharpening it into a multi-million-dollar recommendation. Let's break down exactly how the pros do it. So, let's put you in the hot seat. Imagine this lands on your desk. Your company has just done the impossible. They've created a miracle pill that actually cures baldness. The potential is, well, it's enormous. But so is the pressure, right? You get one shot to launch this thing. If you price it too low, you're leaving billions on the table. Price it too high, and you could have a total flop on your hands. The CEO is looking right at you. What's the plan? Where do you even begin? All right, so here's the official prompt. Our client is a big pharma company. The product, IPP2, is a daily pill that promises to restore your hair to the thickness you had when you were 15. I mean, wow. And they've got two very specific questions for us. First, just how big is the US market for this? And second, how in the world should we price it? Two simple questions that demand a really, really structured answer. So here's our game plan. We'll start by looking at how top consultants actually structure a problem like this. Then we'll do a deep dive on sizing the market, and follow that up with the pricing strategy. After that, we'll pull it all together into a final recommendation and wrap up with the key consulting takeaways you can apply to pretty much any complex problem. Let's get into it. Now, before a single number gets crunched, the absolute most critical first step is to just pause and structure the problem. This isn't about jumping to an answer. It's about building a logical roadmap to find the right answer. And that process, it always begins with asking smart, clarifying questions. So the candidate asks the client about their main objective, and the answer they get becomes the North Star for this entire project. The client says, "We're more concerned about profits than market share." Boom. That one sentence is absolutely critical. It immediately tells us to steer away from a low-price, high-volume game and points us directly towards the strategy of capturing maximum value. And to guide our thinking, we're going to use a core consulting principle called MEES. It stands for Mutually Exclusive, Collectively Exhaustive. All that really means is you break a problem down into separate buckets that don't overlap, but when you put them all together, they cover every possible angle. It's the secret sauce to making sure your analysis is rock solid and you haven't missed anything. So, using that structured approach, the candidate starts asking questions. First, about the product itself. Yup, it's for men and women, and it's a prescription drug. Okay. Second, any constraints? Big one here. It's not covered by insurance. That means customers are paying 100% out of pocket, which is a huge deal for pricing. And third, what are the risks? Turns out there are side effects. A small risk for men, but a major one for women of childbearing age. That means we're probably going to have to exclude a big chunk of that demographic. Every answer is another vital piece of the puzzle. All right, with that foundation in place, we can jump into our first big deep dive, sizing the market. We're going to build this thing from the top down, starting with the entire population and then logically carving away until we get to our real addressable market. And you got to start somewhere, right? So we start with a big round number, 320 million. Let's call that the population of the US. In a case interview, you don't need to be perfect. You just need a reasonable assumption that you state out loud. So this is our starting universe. Now the real work begins. And this is just a brilliant illustration of that top-down approach. The candidate takes that 320 million and splits it into 4 20-year age brackets. That's 80 million people per generation. Easy enough. Then they split each of those 50-50, men and women. The next crucial step is to apply a logical percentage of hair loss to each group, assuming it goes up with age. For men, it ramps from 20% all the way to 60%. For women, the numbers are lower, and importantly, women under 40 are mostly taken out of the equation because of the side effects we mentioned. This simple table gives us a clear, organized way to get to a raw number. Okay, so you add all that up and you get a potential market of 52.4 million people. But a great consultant knows that's a theoretical number, not a real one. We have to apply some real-world common sense. Not everyone with hair loss is going to want a pill, and not everyone who wants it can afford it. So we need to make one more logical cut. The candidate makes a final, reasonable adjustment, shaving off about 7 million people to account for things like personal preference and affordability. And that brings us to our final, defensible estimate for the total addressable market, 45 million people. See, this isn't a guess. It's a conclusion built on a clear, logical process. And that's the kind of number you can confidently bring to any client. Fantastic. market-sized. Now, for the second, and you could argue the harder question, pricing. And just like before, we're not going to pull a number out of thin air. We're going to use that same structured MECE framework to attack this from every possible angle. And here it is, a perfect MECE breakdown for pricing. The candidate says, let's look at this through 3 different lenses. Number 1, competitive analysis. What are other products out there selling for? Number 2, cost-based pricing. What does it actually cost us to make this stuff? And number 3, value-based pricing. What is a full head of hair truly worth to a customer? By exploring each of these paths, we're going to get a complete picture of our pricing options. First up, the competition. So the main alternatives are a $60 topical solution and a $50 pill. But here is the killer detail. Our product is 3 times more effective. This is not just a little better, it's a revolutionary leap. Right away, that tells us our price floor should probably be around $50 or $60, but our insane performance means our ceiling could be much, much higher. Next, let's look at cost. The candidate asks, what's the total cost to make a 1-month supply? And the answer is jaw-dropping. $1. Just $1. Turns out the drug was an accidental discovery, so R&D costs were basically 0. This is a huge turning point. The candidate immediately and correctly dismisses this pricing angle. Basing your price on a $1 cost when you're providing this much value would be a catastrophic mistake. The cost is totally irrelevant here. So if price isn't about cost and it's not strictly about competitors, it has to be about value. And this is where the analysis gets really interesting. It shifts from spreadsheets to psychology. What is a full head of hair worth? The candidate uses this fantastic analogy to make it tangible. Millions of us pay $3 a day for coffee without even thinking about it. So is regaining your confidence, getting the hair you had as a teenager, is that worth at least as much as a daily latte? I think we can all agree it is. And that simple comparison gives us a powerful new price anchor. $3 a day is $90 a month. This lays out the strategic choice perfectly. Over on the left, you've got pricing for market share. You'd go low, undercut everyone, and try to grab volume. But remember our North Star? The client wants profit. That immediately pushes us way over to the right side of this chart. Competitors are chilling at $50 to $60. Our coffee analogy puts us at $90. And a price based on being 3 times better, that could push us to $150, maybe even $180. The sweet spot for maximizing profit is clearly in this higher value-driven zone. Okay, we've sized the market, we've analyzed all the pricing options. Now it's time to bring it all home and synthesize everything into a sharp, actionable recommendation. This is where it all comes together. So the final recommendation isn't just a single number. It's a strategy, and it's rooted in all the analysis we just did. The advice is to price IPP2 based on its incredible value. That means targeting a price point significantly higher than the competition, somewhere in that $90 to $150 range. Why? Because that is the only strategy that directly addresses the client's number 1 goal, maximizing profit. So we've cracked the case. Let's zoom out. What are the core skills from the consultant's toolkit that we just saw in action? Because these are the things you can use to tackle any messy business problem you ever face. First, you have to clarify the core objective. Knowing the goal was profit, not market share, changed everything. Second, structure your thinking. That MECE approach for market sizing and for pricing created a clear, logical path forward. Third, state your assumptions out loud and justify them. Fourth, attack a problem from multiple angles. Looking at competitors, cost, and value gave us a much richer answer. And finally, always tie your final recommendation directly back to what the client told you they wanted from the very beginning. I'll leave you with this one last provocative thought. In the original story, the candidate actually insults the interviewer by pointing out his thinning hair. I mean, it's a huge social blunder. And yet, he passed the interview. Why? Because the logical rigor, the structured thinking, and the ability to build a defensible case from nothing, it was so impressive that it completely outweighed the social screw-up. So what does that tell you about what top consulting firms really value? It tells you that above all else, they value the power of a structured mind. And that right there is the ultimate lesson from the Hair Raising Challenge.